Hi, welcome back to the Ziggy Zone. You know who I am. I'm your girl Ziggy. Anyway, preseason for the NFL is officially over, and we are going to do a little recap because uh, things have gotten a little weird and yet exciting. So, let's begin. First things first, the first big piece of news that hit the world is the Washington Redskins has named Kirk Cousins their starting quarterback. Now, if we follow the Washington Redskins, they drafted Robert Griffin III, who was like the most coveted quarterback of his draft class, um, and Kirk Cousins in the same draft. They were the same draft. And Robert was the starting quarterback, and Kirk had been his backup. Um, Robert has been underperforming. He's it just didn't translate. College to pro didn't really translate. They did good. I think they went to the playoffs his first season, but after that, then he started to struggle with injuries. So yeah, you have preseason, you have training camp, and my guess is that Kirk Cousins proved to be better. But that was also the storyline at the end of last season, when Robert wasn't playing because he was injured, was that Kirk was actually like the better quarterback. That had sort of been the storyline, that Kirk was a better quarterback than Robert, and actually, which led to Mike Shanahan's dismissal from um, Washington, was because he actually was not a big RG3 fan and indeed wanted to play um, Kirk more, but RG3 and his dad was more in cahoots with um, the owner, like the GM or something like that. And Jay Gruden, brother of John, um, he wasn't here too much for RG3 either. That was the feeling I got. And so he chose this time to announce that RG3 would be Kirk Cousins' um, backup. So we're excited to actually see what will happen with the Washington Redskins. I mean, uh, in this season, will RG3 remain the backup? Will he ask for a trade? Uh, yeah, stay tuned for that one just as much as we are going to stay tuned to that one because drama, and I'm here for that. Now, moving on to, so each team had 75 players and they had to get down to 53, which is the final roster, by Saturday, this past Saturday. And there were cuts all over the place of veterans, of like solid veterans. And I'm thinking, whoa, what's happening? Veterans who were picked up with guaranteed money. Teams are cutting players with guaranteed money. Most of the time you cut people because you don't want to pay them, but when you've already guaranteed their money, my goodness, like that's serious business. So there were a few cuts that definitely piqued our interest. The first one was veteran defensive lineman Darnell Dockett. He was first released by the Arizona Cardinals right after the end of the regular season. And then I think I'm not sure if he took meetings with other teams. I know he definitely took a meeting with San Francisco, and San Francisco picked him up, and he had a guaranteed $2 million contract. He was coming back from an injury. It looked like that injury had, he sort of worked himself into football condition after that injury. But then he had experienced a crack in his ribs. So I'm thinking that may have been the reason why the 49ers let him go. Again, he had guaranteed money. Why not keep him? I mean, talk about a veteran who's been in the league, something like 12, 13 years now. This might be the end for him. I don't know if anyone will pick him up. If so, will he be in condition? Does he really want to play? I mean, this is a terrible way to end your career. He's been a very smart player. He's been a Pro Bowl a couple of times. So I'm not sure if he just sort of signs a one-day deal with Arizona and retires. I mean, he's 34, right? 33, 34. I think he's 34. um, you know, and just call it quits, right? He's still young. He can definitely do something else with the second half of his life. Um, Another interesting cut. This cut didn't happen last year. I think, well, it happened last year, but it didn't like really happen last year. Um, but it's a for real cut this year, which is of Devon Steele of the Cincinnati Bengals. If you remember Devon, he had the daughter Leah, who was battling cancer. I think she's in remission right now. Last year, the Bengals did a noble thing, which was they placed him on, I believe, the practice squad so that he can be very attentive to Leah during her treatment. Um, the Bengals still a classy organization. While they cut Devon, they are keeping his health benefits active for 5 years. So that's my guess is to make sure that Leah can still receive the medical treatment that she needs for her cancer. Prayers for her though, hoping that the cancer doesn't return to her. She's such a bright little girl with a lot of energy, and she kept fighting. So that was very noble for the Cincinnati Bengals to still keep his health insurance active. And then Tim Tebow, he is a veteran, sort of. I mean, he's not. I mean, like he had one notable season with the Broncos. But he's really failed to gain traction in the NFL. I'm not sure what it is that teams really don't pick to him. But yeah, he signed on with the Eagles. And the Eagles actually shouldn't be cutting anyone with their quarterback hoopla. But nevertheless, I guess he couldn't make the roster, and so Chip Kelly over in Philly, they cut Tebow. So my guess is that Tebow, he just needs to continue on with his career in being an analyst. I think that, I'm not sure if he's with Fox News or if he's with the NFL Network, but he signed a contract last year to be an NFL commentator, and I think that he just probably needs to continue with that. I know that sports in general is very hard for players to sort of stop doing when they've done it most of their lives, but I think it's time for Tebow to just really let that go. Next was Philip Wheeler, who's a linebacker, he was with the Raiders, and then I think he went down to the Dolphins, I think, or one of those teams in Miami. And I guess he was released from that team, and then he was signed by the 49ers and released. So that's actually interesting to see a guy like Philip Wheeler, who, is a solid veteran, has, been productive before, be cut, especially by the 49ers, who actually need linebackers. But I also hear they are bringing Ahmad Brooks back, which is probably why Philip got the cut. Hakeem Nicks, who, he rose to fame sort of with his days with the New York Giants playing aside, what's his name? Cruz. What's his name? Anyway, you guys know I'm talking about Cruz. Victor Cruz. So yeah, he was with the Giants, went over to Indiana, and this last offseason signed with the Titans, and he was released. I'm sure someone will pick him up if he's free of injury. I think Hakeem will be all right. It's just interesting to see that he was released. Certain players, certain veterans are like, oh, okay, definitely they've earned their roster spot. But I don't know, the NFL business is getting tricky, or it was tricky this offseason. And then the last one, which is scandalous. Christian Ponder. Now, we remember Christian Ponder from when he was the quarterback in Minnesota, the Vikings. He was sidelined with injury about 2 years ago, which is why the Vikings ended up drafting Teddy Bridgewater, who took over as the starting quarterback for them. However, Christian was cut by the Raiders. Now, I hear that Derek Carr is doing well, so I'm not going to throw shade that way. But I'm just really surprised that Christian can't find a team. There are a few teams that could probably use his services. That is, unless they're concerned about his injury. if his injury is really what's making teams do a double take, I can understand that. But my goodness, Peyton Manning had like a neck injury or something, and he's been with Denver Broncos for a couple years now. So we don't know about that. That's interesting. So yeah, next week this time we'll be preparing for. Oh no, this time next week we'll be watching football. Tune in to whatever your local channels are to 5 NFL Network. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting season. I think anyone can win at this point. I'm not convinced from the games that I've watched. So stay tuned for the Ziggy Zone, and we will see you later on this week with our predictions of week 1. Ciao.